Welcome to Planet Bollywood. In the ongoing Me Too movement, many women have shared their stories. They have named and shamed the harassers, and one such brave lady tweeted out and named Sajid Khan, Zain Durrani and Vikas Bell. She is here first time on television with us right here on Planet Bollywood. Welcome to the show, Saloni Chopra. And thank you, and we laud your courage for doing what you've done.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. So, we went through the story, we read it, it was extremely painful. The intricate details that you have actually shared, I know that it's not easy. And for the viewers who have not known about your story, would let you take this platform and let us know what happened.
Okay. I went into a lot of detail in my blog.
Yes.
It was really difficult to go through everything that happened all over again. I'm going to try and keep it as detailed as it was, but it's harder to talk about than it seems, I guess. Starting with Sajid.
Yes.
Obviously, 2011, I went and met him for an interview or whatever you call it to his house because I wanted to work as an assistant director. I wanted to learn more about how films were made. During that time, obviously, I mentioned how my interview with him was a bit disturbing. It was very overwhelming because the kind of questions he asked me if I'd ever been through abuse. He talked about just, I don't know where it came from, but it was a lot to do with human sexual desires and how people are, and how he wishes that women didn't have to go through the things that they did. And by the end of the interview, I started crying because I felt like, you end up in a vulnerable state where you talk about that you've been through this and someone believes you and someone then just feels bad for you and wishes it didn't happen. Yeah. And I wasn't sure if I was feeling weird that I just shared this with someone professional who I was going to work with, or if I was just glad that, I talked about it. But I got out of his house and got into the auto, and a little while later realized that I'd got the job. Once I started working for him, realized that there's a difference between an assistant director and a director's assistant. It's not that uncommon. I mean, you end up you're directly doing things for the director, printing stuff out and talking to other people on their behalf and stuff like that. And I was okay with it. I mean, I'd never assisted in my life, so I wasn't expecting to have a lot of responsibility on set. But it wasn't everything I expected it to be. I mean, I always loved writing, so I would end up writing a lot of articles for him, like, stuff for newspapers about his favorite movies and just a lot of things like that. And it started off with very petty jobs, like picking up his sunglasses from Infinity Mall and things like that. Eventually, I think there was this one time when he gave me a call and I didn't pick up because it was, I think it must have been like late at night, and I didn't pick up, and I was with my mom. And the next time when I spoke to him, he was very pissed off. He was just like, you don't not take my call. I don't care if you're shitting or, if you're sleeping, whatever you're doing, you answer my calls. And I was a bit scared, but I was just like, okay, well, I need to make sure I always answer his calls. Yeah. And the calls started coming at really odd hours. He knew I wanted to be an actor from the start. So our conversations eventually turned into how I'm not sexy enough, and I'm too tomboy, or my hair's not nicely done all the time, and I sit like a man, and why can't I be more alluring? And he was just like, you know what, I want to take you under my wings, and I'm going to make you sexy, and you will know how to behave, and like, to be an actress, you have to be able to do these things. And it was all, I've never been the very sexy kind of women. Like, I've always been very comfortable when I'm messy. Right. So I felt a little awkward stepping into this space where I thought my job would be something else, but this constant pushing and like poking and how I'm not good enough just got to me for a while. And I ignored it. I wasn't proud of myself for doing that, but I tried really hard to let it go as much as I could. And then I realized that his behavior was very repetitive around set as well. I mean, other than his sex talk that happens anyway and everyone knows about it, but there was another actress that came for a role in the movie. She did end up doing it. But we were doing a costume trial for her when he walked in and he saw her in the outfit and he was just like, what the f is that? Like, you know, what do you, like, you don't have boobs, you don't have ass, you want to be an actress? Like, how do you think that's going to happen? And he's like, lift your skirt. And I looked at him and I was just like, she looked at me, I looked at him, and it was this awkward silence. And I sort of looked down because I didn't know what to say to him. And I was just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And she did. And he was just like, yep, you have no ass. Like, what are you thinking? And then he was like, Saloni, just give us a moment, please. And it was, she looked like she wasn't comfortable. I didn't know what to do. So I walked off irritated because I'd been dealing with his shit for so long anyway that if I can't speak up for myself, how am I going to do it for someone else in that situation? Yeah. A few minutes later, he came out, and I went and spoke to her, and she was really upset. She looked like she was going to cry, and I told her she didn't have to do this if she didn't want to, but she was just like, it's fine, it's over now, I'm going to wear this outfit and get on to set. It was a conversation we had, and then it was over. But it just didn't end there. It was this constant talking about his girlfriend and, you know, saying really disgusting things about their relationship or their life that I felt like I didn't need to know. To eventually getting to a point where it's just, those calls got really bad. The phone calls got really bad. The constant, you don't have boobs, or, you know, you're not sexy got really bad. There was this one time we had a conversation on the phone where I couldn't handle it anymore. So I asked him, what is it that you want from me? Like, you know, this constantly calling, this asking me what I'm wearing, send me your photos, and like, you know, you're not sexy. And I was really petrified of him. So half of the time, I wouldn't actually argue. Like, you know, I'd listen, or I was very submissive in a lot of ways where I just didn't know how to respond. I mean, in situations like that, for me, I just didn't know if I did decide to speak up, who would I speak to? Because we don't have an environment that we work in where, you know, there's someone that I can go and talk to. He's my boss, and you usually complain to your boss. So if I can't complain to my boss because he's the one doing it, I don't know what to do. So this one day I lost it because on the phone I was just like, what do you want? Like, you're constantly calling me, you call me over, I tell you I can't come. Like, why is this just about like sex? Is that all you want? Because if it's about sex, like, I'm tired of being tortured. And he was just like, you think you're an idiot. You're so naive if you think this is just about a one-time sex thing. Who even says that I want to have sex with you? Maybe I'll just ask you to touch yourself on camera. Maybe I will ask you, like, you know, maybe I will teach you how the art of sex without actually inserting anything. And I just, it just really got to me. I think that was the night that I really lost it. I yelled at him. I was really upset. I told him that I didn't want to keep doing this, and he was just, he would talk about, you know, other directors who would keep actresses for months, and he was like, it's a process, you know, you have to be like, you have to be my keep, you have to do everything I say, and I'm doing this for your good. It always ended up with like, you know, you want to be an actress, I'm doing this for your good. I couldn't. I think I'm that night insulted him or snapped or abused or something, and I hung up because I couldn't take it anymore. We had a long argument, and after the things that he said, I questioned what I'm doing in the industry, because I was just like, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to go through that process. So I went and I told my mother that night everything that had happened, and she told me that I should make a choice, either, you know, stick around and deal with it and find a way to like handle him and talk to him, or tell someone, or quit. And so I stayed, and I rocked up at work the next time that we were shooting, and to my surprise, he was absolutely fine. He, you know, he told me to go do something, and then someone from the media wanted an article from him, and so he said, why don't you come and write it? And, you know, halfway through the day, he was fine. And then while I was sitting, you usually have like a director's room, and you have one for actors and one for lunch. So we were sitting in the director's room, and I was writing this article for him and he was walking around, and I was asking questions. It was all work talk. We didn't really talk about anything that I'd said to him. I was relieved in a way till the time that he was just like, look at you. You're fucking sitting like, you're sitting like that again. Why can't you spread your legs and sit? Like, you don't know how to be sexy. How many times have I told you that, you can't be like this? Your hair's a mess. Like, open your hair. And I was just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be sexy. And he was like, I can't launch you. Like, no one's going to launch you if you do this. I said, I don't want to be launched. I'd rather just not be launched if this is what it takes. And it got a little heated. He was just screaming, and he was just like, you don't give me a boner. If you can't give me a boner, then how are you ever going to become an actress? And he sort of like took my hand and like tried to put it on his pants, and I was just like, Sajid, just stop, please. And after a point, while walking around, while saying that I don't give him a boner, and this isn't how women become actresses, and I'm not good enough, and I'm never going to make it, he sort of just pulled down his pants, and he was just like, look, you don't give me a boner. Here it is. And that's when I threw his laptop and I walked out, because it was probably one of the most jarring experiences of my life, where I was just like, it all happened so fast that I'm not sure how I was supposed to react.
Saloni, at that point, did you share this with anyone around on set, anybody from the industry?
Yeah, I
anybody
did.
in power?
Yeah, I did. And I don't know if I'd call it anyone in power, but I mean, if you know how the industry works in a way where, as an assistant, it's not like I was friends with the directors or the producers or the actors. I did my job, and I was friends with I spoke to other assistant directors, and I had friends on set from production and, designing and everything. But you're not close to people with power. You don't speak to people with power. But after I quit, I did tell a few friends. I told friends who'd worked with him before. I told people that had assisted him before. I told a lot of people that I was close to, whether, when we'd meet at parties and when we'd talk about what happened, I'd just be like, this is what happened with me. And usually the response was just like a laugh and like, oh my God, he's such a scumbag. Like, the things, he's pulled off this shit so many times. Like, just, it was just really accepted. It was just like, that's Sajid for you. So then eventually I was just like, okay, well, I'm not the only one.
Right.
And apparently I have to live with this, because this isn't something that we're going to talk about or do something about. So, in fact, it was, I even told my associate director on Krish when I started that project. He's the one who asked me when this whole Me Too movement had started. He was like, are you going to speak up? Don't you think it's about time you talk about Sajid? And I was like, yeah, maybe. Because he knew when I joined that project, like, it was one of the first things that I spoke about, that my previous experience was so awful, and I was just petrified on set all the time. I was just like, I don't know who's going to do what. So I did share it with people. Most people just... It was just a very accepted thing. It was just, don't waste your time, with Sajid. It's a good thing that you're out of that space. Work with good people was the suggestion most of the time.
You must know you started a revolution after you shared your story. Many other women also spoke up. What did that make you feel? Like, I'm sure you were scared when you were trying to share your story, and
I was
you had
petrified.
not one. Yes, there were 3 stories you were going to share, and after you did that, 2 more women spoke about what Sajid Khan did to them.
Yeah, Rachel and Karishma.
Yeah, what did that make you feel?
I felt like it was, the whole purpose of speaking was a sense of responsibility that I felt when I knew in front of me he'd done it to other people, and I knew there were other women out there. I just wanted, my whole purpose of doing this was so that other women realized that they could speak about it. So I think it happened within like 24 hours. The other women, like I think Rachel tweeted me, Karishma put up the screenshot that she'd written, and I felt relieved but really sad at the same time that the encounters were so similar, like his house, him pulling his pants down. It was jarring to know that he'd done the exact same thing, like the patterns were very similar. Yeah. But I was really glad that they came out. Like, Rachel was really supportive. She tweeted right away, and she was just like, I can't believe like he did the same thing to you. it made me feel like I'd done the right thing when I spoke about it, because that was the whole point. I was inspired to write because I read Vinta's story, and I was just like, people are really talking about this. It's about I've been talking about women's rights for years now on my Instagram platform, and if I don't really talk about what happened to solve a purpose, then how do I practice what I preach?
Yeah. So when you tweeted it out and when many people came in support, there were many, Farhan Akhtar tweeted saying he was really shocked. His own sister, Farah Khan, tweeted, and many more celebrities. Did anyone get in touch with you directly saying that thank you for sharing the story or thank you for creating awareness about the kind of person he is?
I had a few friends who knew about it before who messaged, but a lot of the people from the industry who did know left me messages saying, I had no idea this happened to you, and it's so glad that you finally spoke up. And I was just like, no, but you knew. And it was a lot of that. There was a lot of like, it's a great thing that you've done. But I mean, not to say that I think it's anyone's place to speak up on my behalf, because they don't need to. But there wasn't a lot of, like, Tapsi tweeted, which
Right.
was sweet. As you said, Farhan put up something. But a lot of people didn't really, people that I know what he's like, didn't really say much.
Okay.
So, which, I mean, I'm not really surprised.